Yeah, in a minute we'll get started. I'm just waiting on Chris to come in. Um, it was kind of last minute, so some of the other people who I invited to come on, they were unable to. So that's completely understandable, and I don't hold it against any one of them. Um, one of the co-hosts, which I was gonna have come on, only reason why he didn't come on is because we are actually going to do we're going to tape an interview after this. So you'll be able to hear a lot of the same things that I'm going to talk about on his show, and then I'll of course share that on my social media platform, so you'll be able to see that interview also. Um, and then just a couple of the other people they who said that they could, they were not able to at the time, so um, that's perfectly fine. Also, I'll go into all my thoughts on those topics, and I'll try to keep them tight and concise. Um, I'm not gonna blab too long today. I'm going to try to stay somewhat close to the time restriction that I have in my head of about an hour. Oh, excuse me, have a little gas built up. Um, but yes, I was saying I'm gonna try to stay concise on the different topics once we get going, uh, because I have a couple of things planned interview right after this one and a couple other things. So bear with me, and we'll start in a moment. Okay, we'll get started in one more minute. Just jotting down a couple of my notes so I won't meander off like a lost sheep like I tend to do sometimes when I get into one of my points, and I get on my little soapbox. Um, and let's see. Okay, yeah, and then that's what I'll talk about. All right. Okay, well, we'll get started now. Hello, this is What I've Been Thinking. I'm your host, Marcus Cage. In this episode, we're going to talk about today all the things going on with the election. Um, whether that is the ballots and some of the stuff that's went on, which has been a little bit, I guess we'll say, mysterious with the ballot box, or you can say it looks a little shady, or whether we're going to talk about how many votes have actually already been counted towards the actual election. A lot of people are focusing on November the 3rd, not keeping in mind that a lot of votes are actually being cast already. And from what I'm hearing in a lot of different precincts, Joe Biden is actually doing very well. So it's the possibility that if he is able to run up the numbers in the right places, this could be over actually a lot sooner than a lot of people assume. So that's something that I wanted to get into and talk about in a little bit. Also want to talk about COVID-19 just a little bit. I'm not going to go too detailed, but just what's going on with COVID-19, what's going to go on with some of the distribution of the vaccination or possible vaccination as it's as it comes out. The president has mentioned that he believes that there's going to be a cure. Now, when they pressed him on it, he did kind of walk it back and, well, I'm not so sure. But um, the two companies which he did mention have been working heavily on a cure, and they have a lot of money invested from a lot of different investors. So, um, in my I guess opinion and experiencing things, how they work in Washington is if a lot of money gets pumped behind it, normally something gets done, whether it's going to be the actual cure that you need or um, whether it's going to be something which they're just trying to rush through, which they try to get passed through the FDA, and then it comes back with all those different side effects and headaches, which we've had with all kind of number of drugs and narcotics, which have come in different situations like this. Whenever you have a pandemic or some kind of an outbreak, um, so I do believe that something will be coming. My concern is some of the way I heard that they're plan to distribute it. I can't remember the name of the plan, but I think it's like Operation Fast Attack or something, a little ominous sounding. Um, what I've noticed across the pond, over into the UK, Scotland, Ireland, a couple places like that, they are actually administering some form of testing, and the plan is that the way they're going around and administering the door-to-door testing, that will be how the supposed vaccination or cure is going to be distributed when it is actually ready. So that's something where Trump and Biden. Well, Biden's kind of alluded to it, but Trump has said multiple times that the military will be distributing the cure or proposed cure, because you never know how these things work. It could be something you have to take for a certain amount of time, and it's not a guarantee. Or like Trump was saying himself, he believes that he's cured, that it might be for a certain amount of months, or it might be forever. He doesn't know. In this moment, even though he is a very untrustworthy person, I'm not going to uh, I'm not going to say whether he is correct or incorrect because I don't know. I don't have enough information about what they're working with, so I will leave that there without trying to cast a judgment. That is just a statement which has come out from him and his administration. Um, I guess I would be a little remiss if I did not talk about Trump versus Biden just a little bit. I just thought about it. I'm using a different camera now, so I can check in and see if I have any messages through my other feeds. Okay, so I'm good to go. I'm not ignoring anybody. That's what I want to make sure. Anybody, if you're in the comment section and you feel like any questions that you want to ask, any topics that you'd like for me to talk about, then go on ahead. Let me go. Let me know, and then we'll bring it up and discuss it a little bit. Um, yes, Trump versus Biden. Um, as far as Trump versus Biden, um, I do think that the second debate was easier to at least distinguish what they were trying to go for and say in the first debate. It was such a kind of clown show and all the interruptions. It was hard to factor anything that was going on unless you were keenly listening to every word or you had a printout of exactly what they said so you could read it back. Um, but there was something that I found pretty interesting. Um, Anytime either one of them would speak, and I would invite you to go back and look at it and see if maybe I'm just a little bit kind of conspiratorial, or if maybe there was something to that. I noticed that during the debate, um, every time Trump would start to speak about numbers specifically, he would be talking, like, the American people, this and that, and then he would turn like this and look specifically, like at the camera. And I just found it was a little bit odd how every single time that he was trying to go for a specific number, and it was kind of odd how exactly specific and correct he was on the numbers, at least from his administration. Um, Normally, you expect some amount of mistakes in the numbers. We're human. You expect for people to slip up a little bit, but I just found that a little bit odd. And I noticed the same thing with Joe Biden. It seemed as if when Joe Biden would go on long moments where he would talk, excuse me, when he would talk for extended moments of time, you would see him turn and, yes, American people, we're planning to do this, we're a stronger nation together, and it just seemed almost a little robotic. I could be a little bit paranoid, but it seems as if there could be the possibility that there is some kind of a teleprompter there that they kind of secretly agreed to for certain moments in their speeches that they could just kind of go back to. Um, at this point, some of the things which have went on with elections, as we know, which happened with Hillary and Trump last time, we know that what was I trying to say? We know that Hillary Clinton was given debate questions during the primaries with Bernie Sanders, and I don't doubt that it did not happen during the general election. And I wonder if the same similar situation is kind of going on now, where they are both getting leaked the questions, agreed upon. Um, they are their staff is coming up with the answer which they feel is most what is it called, focus tested. And then once they kind of figure that out, which, okay, my base wants to hear this and my base wants to hear that, then they're coming out and they're kind of giving us this pro wrestling. um, I could be wrong, but I mean, if you notice also, there are, they both had little, I guess it is weird, almost like little things that were down on their wrists, like receivers or something. I don't know. Maybe it's some kind of a button which you could tap, which it kind of reminds me of the Secret Service buttons where they have the little tiny earpiece that they can put in, and you push the button that's on your little wrist or whatever, or on your thumb. Well, anywhere where your hand can push it. You push that, and it's a way to open communications. So I don't know. Just I could be spending a little bit too much time in the conspiracy theory, so I will warn you there that I could be the one who's seeing a little bit too much, thinking a little bit too much. But that's just something that I say, always be aware of. I say don't take most things at face value. You know, a lot of times there is something that's going on, an extra layer that we're not noticing. In that shell game, there's sometimes the little button or peanut, whatever, that's put up under the shells when they slide it around. Sometimes they slide it right off the table, and we're still looking for that little shell or bean. So I say always be vigilant. I feel you can never be too cautious when dealing with our government, especially when you go back to some of the history which we've had with, like, say, the Tuskegee Institute, where they were testing medications and placebos for syphilis on African Americans, and they were, injecting people knowingly, knowing that that's going to kill them. So I'm not saying that that's what's going on with our government now. I'm not saying that I think that the Trump administration is coming up with some cabal to start killing us. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that because I know that our corporations are greedy and they will take a government contract because they're very lucrative, you can have people who could fudge information. and fudge documents. And with all the lawsuits we have with a lot of these giant pharma companies, I mean, I don't see why anybody would question that that's even possible. Because, I mean, it seems like almost every other month you hear about some kind of major settlement for some kind of drug that somebody was taking, or something that was supposed to help their cholesterol, which upped it and put grandmother into a nursing home, and all of these different things that go on. So we can't just necessarily think that there's not going to be any harm to anything that comes out. I'm not trying to tell anybody to be any kind of an anti-vax or anything like that. I'm just saying, at least try to research the best you can on anything that you have to put in your body, just in general. Um, I feel like it's not a bad, simple rule to have. Um, let's see. What else did I want to talk about? A couple of the things with Trump. Um, this is one way where, if you are a person who you are tired of Trump, which a lot of us are, even the ones of us who say, we're not gonna vote for Joe Biden, or where maybe we're gonna stay home. Some of those same people are some are tired of Trump also, and the way things have been looking. Um, I look at kind of like body language. It's kind of like when you're in the boxing ring and you see one guy starting to look a little bit weaker, or he starts to do something a little bit different than what he was doing originally in his fight plan. Something's up, something's awry. And what I've noticed with Trump is he has been trying to do a lot more. I don't know if he's actually going to do any of this stuff, but he's been trying to put out more initiatives for people of color, and more civil issues, like saying that he would be fine with civil unions and things like that. And what that tells me is, with the mindset that he's come in with, and the arrogance and cockiness which he's always shown, he anytime he starts doing some things like that, where he seems like he's trying to appeal for those extra voters who are sitting out there on the sidelines, to me that's normally a sign of a man who knows that he's losing. I see I have a comment in here that says, is Marcus riding with Trump? No, that's a negative. I don't believe that either one of the candidates, through my assessment, is going to provide any of the things which are reasonable, or anything that I would be looking for. I feel that it's it's kind of like getting two flavors of ice cream, which are both going to make you sick, and you have to pick one or the other. And one might make you sick, as in, okay, you're going to have a fever and be really weak, and the other one is going to have your stomach all messed up, and you can't keep anything down, going from all directions. So that's how I see both of them, especially if you look at the foreign policy and what they talked about in that debate with the foreign policy, both being wanting to be more and more hawkish. Um, that's something that I'm never in favor of. I believe that our military is far, far, far overused, and our diplomats are far, far underused. Um, I think we use a lot of our I won't even say foreign policy, I'll say our figureheads like to use the TV cameras and media to do a lot of, chest pumping, and a lot of bravado and things like that, which people down on the lower level, like myself when I was active duty, and family which I have who are active duty now, and friends, and there's, of course, millions of others who are out there who have to answer the call for when these world leaders decide to just speak recklessly about whatever they're deciding to do, or their plans when they're dealing with some of these other nations. When, if you actually ask some of us down at the bottom level, we would far prefer that you talk to these people, even no matter how much you hate them, no matter how much you demonize or maybe they are the worst world leader out there. Go and talk to them. We would rather you talk to them instead of us having to, you know, be deployed to all of these nations. Because even if we do have to go into these nations, there's always blowback, which is never factored in. When you go into these regions and you destroy a person's homeland, those people have to go somewhere. All the people are not combatants. You have a lot of people who are just stuck in the middle of this conflict. So what happens? They have to flood into other countries. When they flood in those other countries, it normally creates other issues, which is a whole nother ball of wax. Another thing you have is while we're in all these countries and we're pumping the military through everything, our for our people who are really concerned about the environment out there and Green New Deal and things like that, you are pumping so much carbon emissions and all that stuff into the atmosphere, and so you're hurting yourself in two ways by doing that. Another thing is just the relations that you are doing, the relations which you're creating with the people who live in that region and the descendants of those people over time. Sometimes the people who you do the offense to, who are thrown out of these homes and everything, are not the ones who are going to be the ones who are going to pick up arms and weapons. Sometimes it's going to be the children who have grown up watching this atrocity go on to their family and loved ones who were completely innocent. And so it drags them into the conflict because it becomes like blood libel. It becomes something where, it's personal. And so for us to say, oh, well, those crazy jihadis or whatever over there, you got to understand what a person is experiencing, what they're going through. Especially when you step back and realize when we try to look at ourselves, United States, as being this beacon on the hill, which we never really ever were. We were always forcing, our will on a lot of other countries. Excuse me. When you go in and you realize that, and we've always told the story that, oh, we were being helpful, that we were always asked to be there, all these things like that. What you're doing is you're ignoring the true history and the true experiences and the true possible ramifications and consequences of those things that you did in the past. And if you don't know about them, you can't anticipate them. So I think it's dangerous when we try to smooth over history in any sense, because somebody always remembers that history, and if it's uneven, somebody's always going to feel they're always going to feel that inequity of it. They're always going to feel out of balance. So yeah, sorry, I guess I got a little bit off in my tangent too much there. Let's see, on COVID. Of course, the numbers are going up. Um, we don't know I don't know exactly how this is going to go. I don't know exactly how effective the numbers are, how accurate they are either. But we will see how this goes. We'll see how long it is before an actual cure or vaccination, anything like that, comes out. But as far as COVID, I kind of feel like it's been kind of going at a steady pace, unfortunately. It seems like the death rates are kind of staying low for the time being, but we are going into later fall and eventually winter. So who knows what the future holds as far as those things are concerned. Um, let's see, I'm almost done, about to wrap up in a little bit. Um, let's see, November 3rd. If you have voted, I would advise staying away from the polls. If you plan to vote that day, I would hope that you all would get home and hustle and get to safety. I just got a little bit of a bad feeling about some of what might go on. There we go. I got my man Chris in the building. Um, yeah, I talked about a couple little issues. Talked about election numbers. Talked about Trump versus Biden. Some things that I saw that I was like, you know what, I could be a little bit paranoid, but it looked like every time they would speak about certain things, they would like key straight in towards the camera, eyes, dead set on it, and then deliver whatever they were going to say if it was any kind of a long, long tangent or a long spiel. And then I would notice with Trump, what he would do is he would be talking, talking, talking. Anytime it was numbers, anything more specific, he would turn, lock, and then kind of, it almost seemed like he's just reading off the numbers. And I was saying that I would not put it past that they actually have what they actually made an agreement to, already know the questions, already break down exactly what they're going to say, and literally have the what was I going to say? Have an agreement. Let's see. What do you think, sir?
What's up, man? What's going on?
Oh, nothing much. Oh, I need to turn my volume up a little bit. That's probably
Yeah,
why.
just a little bit.
Probably why. Is that a little better?
Yeah.
Alrighty, cool. Yeah. So how have things been going, my friend?
No, same old stuff. Work,
Yeah,
not much else.
I caught the show. I watched a little bit. I had to cut out in and out last night, of course, but I finished it off last night and this morning. Um,
Okay.
and make sure to check the comment section because I dropped a couple of comments in there.
Oh, all right. Oh, we didn't do too bad, right?
No, 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 no. The only thing I noticed is Emmanuel probably have to remember to mute more often. It seemed like it would you would echo um, when occasionally with his mic going.
Okay.
So that was the only thing. I thought it was fun. I also like the seeing Emmanuel kind of open up a little bit more and talk about a couple of different issues. Um, it's kind of funny because how I kind of envision the show, the political matrix for those who don't know what we're talking about, our other show. Um, I kind of envisioned it where I guess my co-captains, it would kind of in a sense be like, the matrix where they are all actually, oh crap, I forgot to plug my cord in. But I figured it would kind of be something similar where each of the members would kind of, in a sense, how those roles, how certain ones were, I don't know about the prophecy, Morpheus, but we're in the fight, and so they were on the same page, but not 100. But they were like, Morpheus believes so, and it's kind of more turning into that more and more because you guys are seeing it on the secular side, everything, and I'm able to go and find it and see. I know Kelly had a comment last night that I remembered. She was like, "Was there any good outcome in there?" And I'm like, "That's a whole complicated discussion there."
Yeah, that's all. I was like, well, sometimes it is what it is, right?
Yeah, well, and the thing about it is, for those who are not familiar with a lot of like, getting deep into religion and things like that, um, is certain things in there where it's like it's prophecies, but it gives you outs, but the out is almost like being sarcastic. It's like, yeah, if you can go and lift up three whales, then this is going to change. And so it's telling you like, no, this is what's going to happen. So I mean, for instance, there are certain nations. A lot of people don't realize that. You know, God in the Bible hates these nations and has vengeance against them coming. I'm not gonna break into which nations, but some of these nations are gonna be on a war footing, and which World War III, which all of us has always thought about. The Simpsons is drawing little cartoons, and South Park and all that, and it's always like Iran, North Korea, all these, it's the same cohort of names. Well, in religious doctrine, it's the same cohort of names also, which are mentioned in the third woe. And so, if you don't know what I'm talking about, the third woe in Revelations, it says, "Woe, woe, woe." One of the angels when he's going across, and what that woe means is destruction, or how some of us have interpreted um, First World War I, World War II, then World War III, and it's proclaiming the three major wars, and the last war being the war that settles all. So, without going too in depth there and
But
getting,
that has yet that's yet to come, right? That's the one that's that's the one that's on deck next.
Mhm. That is the one that is on deck. And how I was talking about earlier between Trump and Biden, even in the debates, they seem like they're on a war footing. I mean, both of them are a lot more hawkish. Both of them are like, "Oh, well, I'm going to do this with Russia and North Korea. I'm going to tell them this," and I'm like, "Okay, all right, okay, do it. Let's see how it goes."
Hey, did you see? Speaking of Biden, did you see? Have you seen all the stuff this morning that's like flooding the net?
No, I actually haven't seen anything this morning, so it's kind of been a cold opening.
Yo,
Which,
believe.
breaking news right now.
I
Hey, let us know.
mean, the pictures are already coming out before. It's not brand new. Not all of them, but there's a lot more. There's even videos out. There's that, they're playing. The tech companies are working real hard this morning to scrub all of it. If you do a search in Twitter or whatever, the chances of you finding it, are slim to none. You'll have to go on other avenues to find all of the information. But it's all out there, and of course, it's being ignored. I mean, it's funny if TMZ had this information on a rapper, or the Shade Room had this information on a rapper or other entertainer, it would be all over the news. It would at least get some reference in some political circles as part of pop culture, right? Like so and so's child was caught doing this. It would make a little drop in the bucket as a distraction. With this, it's total, they're ignoring it completely. Total silence from the major people. And again, even the late night comedians who could be making cocaine jokes, stripper jokes, and all this other stuff that these guys typically use for their, routines, they're super silent on this as well. So you can just 100% see they're just trying to get this guy across the finish line.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It does. I mean, I know everybody out there is not conspiracy theorists or think everything's on the up and up, maybe, but it has just been freaky to me the level of how much it's been pressured that this election is like the most important election, and like everybody has to vote. I mean, I don't even know how the Trump campaign has my email or emails because they're loading me up. I mean, I literally get an email from Trump like every 20 minutes, or Trump Don Jr., or I'm like, what is going on? And then when I
It's
get
funny.
that, I'm getting Joe Biden or some kind of Democratic stuff all flooding through my phone, through my text messages.
Most people made up their mind from 2016. They already knew who they were voting for, right? For some people, it was nobody but Trump, and then for other people, it was anybody but Trump. And, those people are largely still in their camps. I would say there's few that have crossed over, if any at all, because they both seem to be pretty deep in their convictions on this. The independents are just looking at it kind of like, ugh, this is nothing worth supporting or even paying attention to, which is where I am now. Uh, it's we've covered that before, but it's fun to just watch others' reaction to it, and like you kind of, it's like you standing on a train. And, you may have heard the guy say, "Hey, my stop. I'm getting off at 51st Street." And maybe he's reading the newspaper, so you tap him and you're like, "Hey, this 51st coming up," and he's like, "I don't believe you." Okay, that's fine. I don't know what else to tell you. This is all, the theater is bad. Like the production is horrible. The directors are bad. The actors are bad. It's like the Cinemax movies like in the late 90s that would come on at like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh boy, memories. Oh, I remember that as a kid, sneaking around trying to watch some little old nasty movies. But the trials of a teenage boy. Most of us were there at some point. Um, but I look at it like this: like how we should be awareness wise is if you look back to like the ancient days, you didn't have any cell phones, you had no email, you had no nothing, and you didn't even know necessarily what was out there or who could even attack you because you didn't even know where all the people were at. And just all of a sudden, boom, somebody's on your shores. You got boats coming up. You got canopies, launching stuff, and you got fiery arrows all over the place. This is kind of what I feel like. We're kind of like in a siege point. Like I feel like the tide has been abated for a little while. The initial wave of attacks with you had COVID going on, you had all the Black Lives Matter stuff going on, you had the defund the police, and this is kind of like been that first kind of wave of things attacking. The I don't want to say attacking the nation, but plaguing the nation all at the same time. And then you throw race issues outside of the Black Lives Matter or just in general. Like recently out here in California, they just passed a literal Karen Act. Now I wish they would have spelled it with a K, but hey, they're right there. But they had a Karen Act, so now for any woman who, or I won't say woman, anybody who wants to call the police on people and use the whole racist stuff like what happened in what happened in New York, that's going to be a chargeable offense now. So I think at least we'll take our minor victory there.
That's that's what I'm saying. Minor victory, yay. I mean, which is pointless. I mean, it's meant to just continue to poke at you. It's kind of like poking the bear. Like, no one knows they're poking the bear. They just see the reaction from the bear. Most of the masses don't see what's happening. So it's a constant manipulation of us by those who would control the media, the vehicles through which they get the information. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Well,
owned
no,
by it's owned by that particular group of people, and they have a certain set of beliefs, as we always harp on here. It's important to remind people of that because you can just look at their movements and just see everything. Like I said, they're blocking this Hunter Biden story today big time because not only is it okay, it's salacious in that there's sexual material on there. Whatever he does in his private time with an adult is cool. Um, there's potential images and videos on there that don't look like uh, it's someone of age.
mm.
All right. So at that part, again, why are you not talking about this mainstream media?
And see that's always been kind of my angle on politics, even when it goes back to the Bill Clinton stuff, and you talk about, say, Kennedy. I tend not to care as much about what you're doing personally. If you're cheating on your wife or your husband or whatever you have going on, as long as it's not illegal, I don't really think that should be our business as far as how you, as long as it's not affecting your job running the country or whichever municipality that you're in charge of. That's always been my standpoint because I know that
Mm-hmm.
we're
For
all
sure.
human, we're fallible, we all have desires, we all have interests,
Correct.
and so you can get caught up in a situation, and next thing you know, you're doing things outside of what you should be doing. And so I leave it for each individual to judge their own morality and what they should be doing or not doing. But any of us can be caught up in that same situation. So I try to look at it as, what are they there for? They're there for passing laws. If they're a judge, adjudicating in certain ways. I'm not there to worry about what they do behind closed doors unless it's affecting directly what they're doing. And it feels like we have situations now where it's getting outside of that bounds, and now we're starting to have things which are a little bit questionable with illegal substances, possible illegal ages, and
That
that
part.
yeah, that's where.
That part.
Well, but another thing I don't know if you know about that's went on out here. There's a bill which was passed that you know I know I'm going to probably get in a little bit of touchy area here, but the bill was framed as a bill for LGBTQ rights, and it basically allowed for I guess we call legal statutory rape for up to 10 years. And so if you're 24 years old, you're okay to have a relationship with a 14-year-old. And they try to say, well, that's not the main point of it. And, it's more about people who are 17 and 19, but it still allows for 14 to 24. That should be a problem. But, I digress. What do you think, Chris?
No, I don't think that's something that should be sanctioned. I mean, look, um, do people make decisions? Yes. Do 14-year-olds sometimes make decisions? Yes. Do 21-year-olds make decisions? Yes. But that should not be something that's co-signed by, law. You know, that's in all ways it's inappropriate. I think, and it doesn't matter what the combination is. Uh, it's it's not cool. So I that's not something I would agree with. I mean, I think I saw a little bit of it. I think one of the lawmakers, she was explaining it in the assembly, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to some of what she said. Some of it had to do with classification of offenders and their statuses, etc. But again, if you can separate one thing from another. You can look at the ones where it's questionable, where the age may be a year and a half, but because of old laws, one person is being charged with certain crimes when it's clearly not that. So if you want to change the classification in those particular cases, that makes all the sense in the world. Anything more than that is you reaching. You go into a place that I don't think is really good for children.
Well, yeah, I don't feel like it's I get if you're trying to push for certain issues, but you gotta always look at the negative ramifications of what you're doing, and you have to weigh that out. And it can't be, well, this is helping this one issue that we need to fix, and you can't be the person who's like grabbing that one bottle off the shelf that you need and knocking all the rest of the bottles off. That balance has to always be focused on. And I feel like more and more some of these things are kind of getting a little bit out of whack. And uh, I'll kind of put this out there now. It's a possibility of a very special surprise interview with somebody I enjoy him quite a bit. I like his take, and it's good to hear point of view of somebody who I feel is still kind of in the system and still fighting and are still a little bit optimistic about things when I'm a little bit more pessimistic and keeping my eye on things. And so after the election, I hope to have on Professor Harvey K. So try to have him on. Really curious to hear like some of his thoughts on like what it will look like in the first 100 days of, I assume, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris presidency. So I'm kind of more concerned with the 100 days. What are we going to be looking like? Initiatives. What kind of things that you know the people in the House are going to be pushing for, and what kind of things which you know he's hearing about that people are trying to do, and counteractives to some of the downsides to having a Biden presidency and a Kamala Harris presidency.
Well, I think you have to look at it as a countdown to when Biden either steps aside, has a health issue, but I don't think it will be long because you can just listen to him. When he talks, he just sounds like he's riding a bike for the first time and he's just trying, like I used before, he sounds like he's trying not to fall off the bike. Very, I'm running for president, not Senate. No, no, no. So he just has that whole look about him. So I don't think, they're trying to just quickly have these days fly by so they can just announce themselves the winner, have Biden sworn in, a few months after, and then let Kamala go from there. But again, that just shows you how fake that everything is. So, but I don't think that they're going to win actually.
So you don't. So you think old Trumpy Dumpty's gonna pull it out?
Mm-hmm. In the states that matter, yes, because if you look in the states that they really need, was it Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and what was the other one?
No.
Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio. Yeah. What is Biden offering them that Hillary Clinton didn't?
The thing is,
besides just not being her.
The thing is, I believe that they've convinced enough people, especially, and the thing you got to remember with those states is, think about the demographics of those states. You have a lot of older voters, and you'll have let's just say it, a lot of older white voters. Now, in this white privileged society we live in, just being honest, these people are normally not very engaged because most of the stuff doesn't happen to them directly. And so they might have been ticked off a little bit with some of the, the NAFTA stuff with Joe, and they would have been upset with some of the trade issues. But you put this COVID thing going, and they're like, a lot of these people are not really ready to forgive Trump. And I think that's going to bite him hard, harder than he realizes.
Now, keep in mind, if Biden wins at this time over the winter, for sure, come the, going into January of 21 going forward, at some point there's going to be lockdowns. The vaccine still has to be rolled out. That's going to hurt a lot of businesses, going to hurt a lot of people, like a whole lot. I don't know if those people up north could really deal with that in those states. I don't know if they can really deal with that. Not to say that that won't happen under Trump. It would probably just manifest differently, but they would be most, I don't even know, man. It's hard to call this one, which side, because it's all political and people are partisan and they're going to play on it. It's a little slightly difficult to see how each side will react to.
Well, see, I think I think the missing hinge, the fulcrum that most people are missing in this whole thing is whether it's Trump, whether it's Biden, what you have is you have a security state, you have a health department, you have certain Congress people who are over certain committees have decided on what they plan on doing, regardless of who the president is. Think about it. Mitch McConnell, when he's in, Mitch McConnell's going to keep on pumping Republican judges no matter who the president is.
Hmm.
You put some of those people who are over, say that these pharma contracts, they're still going to keep letting these, sneaky contracts go through, and and the same thing with the people who are dealing with the FEC and all of these different things.
It's that entire apparatus remains the same, almost unchanged in so many cases. So again, whoever sits in the White House, it really doesn't matter for the bigger picture, quite honestly. And speaking of the White House, did you happen to catch Kanye on Rogan?
No, 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 no.
Okay. Yeah, I saw it, Mr. I need to be the leader of the free world. It was interesting. He interwove, his belief in God in and throughout the entire interview. In some places it seemed well used, and in others it just seemed like if we just dress right with one seam and just sing really well and just lead with love, like we would be okay. And I'm just sitting there like, while all of that sounds good, there's a lot more to it. You just can't think that you can just get in good favor with these minor token gestures.
Hmm.
And that's the part I don't like.
I mean, I figured that I'm going to do a video on this soon, but I know everybody's noticed all the different changes between this channel and what I do on the other channel, and like how I haven't been filming on this one as much and all that. And I'm going to drop a video to kind of like pulling it all together because we start talking about religion a little bit, and it goes into my religious beliefs, where some of the changes come in, and trying to navigate that along with politics and still learning at the same time. So, um, what I realize, or I'll say my different interpretation. I guess I'll try to do it briefly because we're getting close to an hour, and I'll just keep it an hour today. Catch me a little bit of football in a minute.
Mm.
But what I understand is I grew up, in the church just like a lot of kids did, and had, plenty of pastors. I had a pastor for an uncle, and plenty of deacons in the family, and was able to ask a lot of questions to people in the church who I considered authorities, bishops and archbishops and all these different people, because I went through multiple different, I guess, uh, forms of Christianity, whether it was like Baptist or Pentecostal or AME Zion, which is African Methodist Episcopal. That's such a mouthful. Episcopal Zion. But studying those different things, I got different versions, I guess, of Christianity and what you're supposed to do at a different point. And then I was always told when I would hear about certain other things, oh well, that's something you don't have to worry about that. Well, this doesn't mean what you think that means. Well, I know that sounded like that, but that's not what that really means. And so it actually pushed me into kind of more agnostic viewpoint, because I had the people in the church saying things which I'm reading which don't make sense. And I realized it didn't make sense because I wasn't getting the whole picture. I'll say a few months back, I was able to actually run across some different things. And it forced me to look at certain books of the Bible that I'd never even heard of. when I looked at those books, I understood why the stuff was taken out of it. And I'll go into this deeper in the video that I'm going to do. Um, as I started to understand these things, I understood why they were taken out, and certain theories and conspiracies or things which I always wondered about all started to become really, really clear, really, really fast. Because you got to remember, like I've told you all before, I've been in the politics my whole life. I've been in history my whole life. And I've also always been close to religion. But I've never put them all together or understood how there was a tie until now. And so now I understand the tie, and now I see the tie. And so when I hear people like Kanye saying what he's saying and doing some of the stuff he's doing, some of it can be confusing because some of it sounds wrong, but technically could be right in certain ways. But it's complicated, not have to explain it. Some people will say, "Oh, that sounds blasphemous," but they don't realize. For instance, when he talks about when he calls himself a god, what people don't realize is if you break down the definitions of what the stuff is, and just instead of taking it for what you think it means, God is not a specific term. It's a powerful being. It doesn't specify which powerful being. In the Bible, the devil is even specified as a god. So there's all kind of demons in the Bible which are referred to as gods. Gods means a powerful being. So it doesn't necessarily mean the Most High God. There is a difference. There's levels to this. In fact, when you read even into the first book of Genesis, it talks about Elohim. Elohim is plural, means multiple, multiple supernatural type beings. So those who think that it was just God coming down from a cloud and this one finger was doing all that, no, that's not what's going on. Not even close. It was more like imagine seeing, the kingpin sitting behind his desk and him saying, "Hey, you go take care of that." And he laid out the blueprint, and then all these other beings executed. More like a Pat Riley, more like a Phil Jackson. It's not out there literal one being doing all this. So once I started even understanding some of these concepts, it made me start to question certain things like the Trinity, which it never made sense how three people are one person at the same time, or one person, they're all equal, but this person doesn't know what this person's thinking. I'm like, it sounded schizophrenic to me. And you're telling me that you believe God is schizophrenic? I'm like, yeah, this stuff's not making sense here. And so when you start going into some of these things and start reading for yourself and getting your own understanding, certain things get, it's not exactly what I say majority of Christians believe is not even close to the full entire message of what's being spoken in that book. And there's one part in Revelations which sticks in my head where it talks about the giant angel handing down the small book and telling him to eat it, and it'll be sweet like honey when it's going down, but it'll be bitter at the end and leave a bitter taste. That's kind of what the Bible is like. Yeah, there's that hope and love and joy and peace message and the kingdom and beauty and all that stuff, yes. But you better remember, there's nothing that's given to you for free and for easy. And
there's a long, hard walk before you get to that point.
Yeah, that's what people need to understand. And so any of those Christians out there who thinking Christ is going to come down handing out, lilies and dandelions and giving out hugs, I don't know what you read. But yeah, I guess we're getting close to about an hour. Anything you want to say, Chris, before we get out of here?
Right now, no. We good. We'll plug in. We'll talk during the. We'll talk off hours. We'll come up with something for next week.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try to probably have some of the brothers from my faith, who I feel a little bit more knowledgeable on breaking down the floor. Yeah, some are definitely more knowledgeable, but ones who I feel like that can break some of this stuff down in a more concise, direct manner and be able to break it out and show you it biblically. Some of the stuff I know it, but I can't jump to it like some of these brothers can do. So I'm gonna try to get some of them in there. I consider them, almost like young prophets, and like it says in the book, when you're speaking from the book, you got to speak as an oracle of God. And so I feel like um, some of them are definitely speaking that way, and I want to share some of that with you also. This has been what I've been thinking with Marcus Cage and my good buddy Cy Lawson. Going by at Cy Lawson 8 on Twitter. Make sure to I'm definitely going to probably film again next week. And I'm going to do open panel again. Anybody who wants to come is welcome. I don't care if you're a Trump supporter. I don't care if you're like you're ACAB or whatever. I don't care if you're like burn it all down. Hey, the more the merrier. It'll be interesting to just hear your different points of view, especially as it gets closer towards this election. Actually, I haven't checked the calendar. It might be right around that. Well, we'll figure all that out later. But anyway, it'll just be fun to have all those different voices. Make sure to come and check us out over at my other channel, The Political Matrix, where that's myself, Chris, and Emmanuel, and we're touching every third rail that's out there, and no fear, no holes, no bars. So, if you got the stomach for it and you're ready to really challenge yourself to walk outside of that cave, which I say that most of us are in, stuck in this political matrix, you're ready to come out to the real truth, no matter how scary it is. Come on over and have a conversation with us. We love the comments, we love the chats, and I'm interactive with the guests. If there's extra information that they want to see where I research my sources or get extra information, Chris will tell you. I'm more than happy to share my sources with anyone, and I leave it up for you all
Definitely.
to make your own judgments. We're all intelligent adults, I believe. So either you'll take the information, believe it, run with it, or you'll discard it. That's that. Um, you all have a great weekend, and have a wonderful week.
Peace.